Hey, sorry I haven't uploaded in a while. I tried to do my best with this video instead of doing a half-baked job to get it out fast like I do with most of my videos. Because this took a long time to make, there's a good chance some of what I talk about might be outdated due to a shift in the metagame. I'll try to correct anything I spot in my script that isn't accurate, but I am only human, so if you catch something that I didn't, please let me know in the comments. I won't draw this out with more excuses. Let's start the video. Blackwings are sick. The deck I've loved ever since they came out. As a playground duelist with over 60 cards I could get together from Duelist Pack Crow to as a casual years ago clicking buttons on Yugioh Pro with my friends, and now as a competitor, taking part in the local scene and actually competing to the best of my ability. It seems like every few years something will get me looking at the birds again, and I'll find myself falling back in love with what ultimately got me hooked on Yugioh in the first place. Each time finding something new that makes me thrilled to be in the driver's seat again. I suppose this video is something of a primer for the deck, so I'll be trying my best to get you prepared to pick the deck up for yourself if you're interested. But to be perfectly honest, this is mostly just me using my small platform to gush about my favorite deck for as long as I can get you to listen. For our starters, we're on 3 copies each of Sudri the Phantom Glimmer and Simoon the Poisonous Wind. These are your key starters, and seeing them in your opening hand is where you want to be. Simoon is the stronger starter and leads to more robust end boards, however Sudri is the only true one-card starter in the deck as Simoon requires another name to banish. We do unfortunately have to play cards we don't want to draw, and for those cards, each we have one of Zonda, Auster, Vayu, and Zephyros. Each serves a different purpose, but generally these are our targets for the Foolish Burial effects we can access throughout our combo lines. Zonda raises the ceiling of our end boards and is a crucial beast of the Sudri combo line. Auster makes going second a breeze by placing wedge counters on monsters with full armor master to steal, or by placing a concerning number of black feather counters on Blackwing Dragon to cash out for huge burn damage and almost guarantee our opponent's monsters can be run over. Auster also enables plays under Dimension Shifter. I really can't stress enough how versatile this card is. Many players have cut this card to reduce the number of cards we don't want to see, but I feel Auster enables so much that cutting it is a mistake. Definitely a card I absolutely love playing. Vayu allows follow-up and extension during Sudri combos, and plays through Nibiru, but is the most cuttable card in the deck if you want to slim the engine down. If you do want to cut this card, you replace it with another copy of Chinook, Harmatan, or Bora, and be sure to remove Sohaya from the deck if you do, as Sohaya is played exclusively for Vayu lines and isn't worth summoning outside of those, thanks to its awkward level. Zephyros is an absurd card. I don't think I need to explain this to anyone. Resetting soft once per turn effects and getting a body on board at the low cost of 400 life points is very worth it, especially when that burn damage we take can be converted and amplified into burn for our opponent if they commit to certain hand traps like Bystials, or if we're going second. For extenders, we play 3 copies of Vada the Emblem of Wandering, 1 Harmatan the Dust, 1 Orochi the Squall, and 1 Gale the Whirl. Blackwing has access to a large pool of free special summons to draw from, and these are the ones that I feel are the best of the best. Vada is an integral combo piece through its effective Foolish any non-tuner Blackwings and functionally synchro summon from deck, but being a 2-star tuner is also extremely helpful. I really cannot stress enough how much this card does for you. Harmatan the Dust is probably the worst Blackwing name you have to play, because without it, playing through Interruption becomes way harder than it should be. While Blackwing has its fair share of free non-tuners, all of them have too high attack to be circled off Black Whirlwind with our normal summons, so Harmatan being a non-tuner the Whirlwind can grab and being able to modulate this level comes up often. Orochi the Squall is extremely strong. Being a free level 1 tuner is great, having that tiny attack stat is perfect, and you will go through this monster in your standard combos to reach the better end bosses like Hot Red Dragon or Archfiend Abyss. Gale is antiquated. Being a free special of a tuner that isn't once per turn, unlike Vada and Orochi, is crazy, but the real draw is being able to play through a Nibiru during a Simoon pop-off using Hawk Tamer Gel. The effect to have attack also comes up during board breaking, which is always fun. Once Sharnga comes out, this deck can be cut, as Sharnga serves its purpose better, but that's a discussion for when we actually get the card. Maze of Memories Copium. There's one more card that doesn't really fit into any of the categories above, so I'm putting it here. Chinook the Snowblast is a pseudo hand trap that negates a monster's effect, lowers its attack by 700, and sends a Blackwing or Blackwing Dragon from yesterday to the graveyard. They'll just print anything on these cards, it's incredible. It's a useful piece of interaction, and worth playing at 1, at least, for games where you can get an extra search off Whirlwind, or for breaking boards. We're on 3 Black Whirlwind. The card is just as crazy as it was back in the day, arguably better. It chain blocks your Sudri search, it finds all your pieces, it's not once per turn, it does it all. There's an argument to playing 2 to avoid clogging your hand with Whirlwind, and no normal summon, but I don't agree with that. Anyone who's ever opened to Simoon with a spare Whirlwind can tell you how strong that is, so maximizing your odds to do so will win you a lot more games. We're only on 1 Black Feather Whirlwind. While Feather Whirlwind is arguably just as important as the classic Whirlwind, it's also searchable, and we can abuse the soft once per turn through Zephyros. No need to use deck slots on spare copies when we already functionally have 3 through our next card. Shamal the Sandstorm can pitch itself to set Feather Whirlwind directly from deck, and can banish itself from grave to add a Blackwing in grave back to hand. We play 2 because that's the maximum number of copies you'll need throughout the course of a combo. I experimented with 1, but ultimately found that was more awkward than it was worth, especially when on open hands with Simoon, Shamal, and no other name. There's an argument for playing 3 in order to go through a combo route my list isn't built for, but I'll talk more on that later. As for other main deck pieces of interaction, we have 2 trap cards, both searchable. One each of Black Shadow Squall and Blackwing Twin Shadow. Squall is a spell trap negate we can set to our field if we control Blackwing Dragon and it's in the graveyard. And Twin Shadow allows us to synchro summon on our opponent's turn by shuffling back monsters in the grave or banish pile for cost. Twin Shadow is the more versatile and powerful of the 2, allowing us to beat board breakers monsters can't respond to, while Squall is our second target for more fringe situations or if we don't need to search Twin Shadow for one reason or another. Modern Blackwing is historically needed to open exactly Simoon to pop off and would end on a relatively middling board otherwise. While this is still partially true, Sudri has given the deck a second, albeit worse, starter. Notably, this is still only 6 copies of starters, so we're on 3 each of Small World and Pot of Prosperity to boost our odds of finding the cards we need, and if we open our starter to find extenders to push through interaction. To go along with Small World, we do need a bridge, and our bridge of choice is Radiant the Multidimensional Kaiju. You can play anywhere from 1 to 3 depending on how much you fear God. I'm on 2 because I know me and my astonishing ability to draw garnets, but it is optimal just to run the 1. While it's not great thanks to the presence of Shizu Shufflers, Called by the Grave is still powerful and well worth running. I don't think I can say much about this card, though I haven't said better already. This is definitely a card you can cut if you like, but I'm too scared of Droll to even move to the side. Infinite Impermanence is our hand trap of choice, being immune to Called by and dodging triple tactics, talent, and thrusting, which will likely see far more play going into a format with kashtira. The aforementioned triple tactics talents acts as our Bystial endurance, allowing us to convert our opponent's hand trap into a big momentum swing for us and helping break boards. You have not lived until you've burned your opponent for 2,500 more than you normally do, then stolen their monster for Synchro or Exceed fodder because they dared to summon Magnemite. Extra X space is tight, so there's only a few flex slots, and they're currently taken up by duplicate copies of key cards to assist with follow-up plays and to provide insulation against kashtira, as well as fringe extenders for Nibiru. For most important to least, here's everything I think is worth playing. We got 3 copies of Blackwing Assault Dragon. There are only 2 constants to life, death and taxes. Assault Dragon allows us to tax the ever-loving hell out of our opponent and throw them into the metaphorical meat grinder that the game turns into when Blackwings go off. Add to the taxation a nuke after only 4 activations, and the immunities to said nuke granted to your monsters by Feather Whirlwind, and you've got everything you'll need to put the screws to your opponent. Initially, I was only on 2 copies, however, while I was researching the deck, I came across a combo video by Kali TV that I'll link below that ended on 3 copies of the card while still making negation, and I was sold on the 3rd copy. The free summoning condition is also extremely useful, turning spent bodies into a live one, while denying the few good targets your opponent's Dark has from being stolen. 2 copies of Blackwing Dragon. The classic Blackwing's end boss from the anime finally has a use thanks to the new support in Darkwing Blast. While the special summoning this monster using materials in deck makes access trivial, and the effect of absorbing and converting burn damage for you into burn damage for your opponent is something that happens quite frequently. I'm shocked they managed it, but Konami salvaged Blackwing Dragon in a great way, and since it's not difficult to summon on your opponent's turn, you can also deny your opponent's attempts at burning you, which is a great bonus to have on a key piece of your deck. It also prevents you from losing to very specific things that I'm not really allowed to talk about in deck profiles. 2 copies of Boreas Storm the Wicked Wind. Boreas Storm is one of the most pushed cards I've read in a hot minute. It's Foolish Burial, it modulates its level, and for some ungodly reason it's Yugioh Guardian too. While the Yugioh effect doesn't come up, it's still useful to keep in mind with how easily Blackwings can cut monsters down to size to be walked over. A lot of people only play 1, but with how strong it is, I think playing less than that is a mistake, especially given that the second copy gives easy access to Assault Dragon with a crackback. 1 copy of Full Armor Master. The card that turned the deck into Towers Turbo for years is still extremely good, especially with how easy it is to get Ouster in the grave with Boreas Storm. Words cannot describe how much this card does, and it's probably the one card every player knows they have to respect out of Blackwings. 1 copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. Hot Red is the reason the deck doesn't lose to board breakers. Being able to convert a Search to Roshi and a Blackwing Dragon into an Omni Negate is extremely strong, and not needing to change out the card it negates means you can play around Dark Ruler no more through Twin Shadow. You really can't cut this card. 1 copy of Nothung the Starlight. Nothung grants an extra normal summon in a deck with Black Whirlwind. Do I really need to say more? The burn effect is also useful, lowering life totals to do things that I'm not allowed to talk about, as well as attack stats to make lethal easy. A sentence I'm sure you haven't heard enough from me in this video. One copy of Onimaru the Divine Thunder. Onimaru is largely a way to convert awkward levels on field into a tuner that can work with what you need. None of the effects other than its ability to modulate level really come up, to be honest. Once in a blue moon, the effect to gain 3000 attack comes up, but it's not always something that needs to be in your calculations. Also, the effect to modulate levels is once per duel for reasons beyond human understanding. One copy of Draco Berserker of the Tenny. The 8-star Dark Synchro Pool's best representative is here to break boards and hit hard doing it. It's very, very rare that your opponent won't have something for this to punch over with how much incidental attack shrinking this archetype has. Berserker isn't always plan A, but it's a damn strong plan B. One copy of Hawktamer Joe. Joe is a card I hate running, but ultimately you have to play it to beat Nibiru. There isn't much else to say about Joe, and I cannot wait for the day where I get to cut it and use the extra space. One copy of Wallow. Turns out very few combo lines synchro lock you, and it's extremely easy to make 2 level 6 monsters. Wallow is extremely strong, especially in the tier limit meta, and the stat boosting does actually come up. I've gotten a lot of rage quits on Dueling Book decks to that effect. 10 out of 10 card, I love it. One copy of Sahaya the Rainstorm. This monster is in the deck almost exclusively for value. I have yet to summon this thing properly once. Really, it's just an extra body. There's not much else to say. A lot of people playing Blackwings run extra deck engines like the Dragoon package with Mud Dragon, or a Link package that uses Wise Strips and allows access to Borland Savage. Most of the reason I don't play those is so I have a wealth of options in my extra deck for all stages of the game rather than a slightly higher ceiling, but I'll explain each individually just to be safe. Honestly, the theory behind Wise Strips is sound. It unbricks weird hands and allows you to pivot between lines when interrupted. However, I feel it takes up too much space in the extra deck to justify over more cohesive toolbox options for fringe lines like Onimaru, Joe, and Sahaya, as well as redundancy for kashtira or follow-up. Borland Savage is an extremely high power and boss as well, but I feel the opportunity cost of lines that make it is too high when I can just use Hot Red Dragon Archery and Abyss for similar impact. And it doesn't help that simply making a Link monster prevents Sudri's ability to summon a token, locking you out of your best tool for navigating hand trap lines. In summary, it's too much commitment for too little impact in my opinion. Similar to the Wise Strips and Savage package, I think that the opportunity cost of Dragoon is too high to justify not being able to play under a synchro lock and giving up the extra deck space. Dragoon is a powerful end piece and will be able to win games, but realistically speaking, Full Armor Master is functionally the same card enough of the time that you won't miss the Omni Negate. I'm sorry to say this to the people out here who love Cal Yugioh. He's cope. The line that goes to Cal Yugioh is too much effort in my opinion. Yes, it is a turn skip, but Blackwing is perfectly capable of making some truly powerful end boards that would be extremely difficult to break through anyways. It also doesn't help that the appeal of a turn skip is significantly lowered when the best deck and vast majority of the playing field is a deck that doesn't need its turn to go off. What Havnis, and you just went through that huge setup for nothing. I don't think it's worth playing for if you intend to compete in a tier limit meta at all. I get the appeal of Shifter, I really do. While Blackwing cards do benefit a lot from the graveyard, cards like Feather Whirlwind and Twin Shadow allow you to easily play under Shifter. However, while Shifter doesn't completely halt your plays, it does stunt your ability to pop off significantly. Because Avada is banished instead of being sent to the graveyard, you aren't able to summon Blackwing Dragon anymore, which turns off a lot of your best cards and means you'll get burned a lot. Twin Shadow can shuffle back from banish, but good luck finding Twin Shadow unless you have the luck of the Golden Gods and already open not only Simoon and a banish, but also one of your search targets so you can afford to spend a search grabbing Twin Shadow. I can get the appeal, but I don't think the math is just in the favor of Shifter. Sideboard this card if you really want to, but main deck space probably shouldn't be used for this card, especially going into a meta where 2 out of 3 of the best decks don't really care about Shifter and actively run the card. There are a few reasons why I don't like Silverwind the Ascendant in this deck, and I feel they're fairly simple. You never summon Silverwind naturally, it's always a summon off Twin Shadow, which means Silverwind missing timing forces you to activate Twin Shadow at extremely awkward times. Silverwind also takes up extra deck space that I feel is better served by cards that contribute to our game plan, Twin Shadow or not. Why summon Silverwind when we could just summon Full Armor Master instead? All in all, I feel the pros of Silverwind are enough to justify the space it takes up, even if said space isn't much. I'd rather summon a Glorious Storm to Foolish or an Armor Master to start spreading wedges mid-chain. Steam the Cloak is at its best in builds that go through Wise Strips due to its level. I generally don't have a use for Steam because I don't have any way to link it off, meaning my only means of removing it from the field is Sudri, which I think is a suboptimal use of both cards. The levels and the extra don't add up favorably for a 3-star killer, and the lack of Link monsters means I very rarely want Steam on field. There are just more impactful cards in the archetype we can and do use. The Bystials in their side deck. As powerful as Bystials are in tier meta, they're dead to the two other best decks in Full-On Reese and kashtira, and if you lose the die roll, activating a Bystial turns off the most powerful starter in the deck in Simoon, as we now have a monster on our field. If you'd like to run them, then by all means, they are extremely powerful and only getting better with Ball Drake, but I don't like main decking them at the moment. I'm fairly certain that's everything people like to run in Blackwings that I don't, but I might have missed something when I was writing the script. Feel free to comment down below your favorite tech or any questions about the other cards that I missed, and I'll try to answer them. When you look for Blackwing combo videos on YouTube, you are without a shadow of a doubt going to find people who are showing off Simoon or 2+ card combos and not a whole lot else. So I'm going to start with a simple 1-card combo using only Sudri. Obviously, I will be getting into the Simoon and 2+ card combos after this, but it's important that you know this just because it's a realistic hand that you're going to have to play with. First, we'll normal summon Sudri and add Vada with its effect. Special Vada, then use Vada on field and Zonda in deck to special summon Blackwing Dragon. Use Zonda to summon a Simoon from deck. Use Sudri to tribute off the Simoon for a tuner token. Use the token and Sudri to summon Boreastorm, then send Vayu to become level 1. Secure Boreastorm and Blackwing Dragon for Hot Red Abyss, then summon Assault Dragon. This obviously isn't much. It's a negate, a board wipe after some time, and a Vayu for follow-up or as a chalk blocker. But it's important to know this line for hands where you don't have access to Simoon, or any extenders so you aren't completely dead in the water when you don't need to be. Never forget to prepare for the worst case scenario. Our next combo is how to manage a semi-bricked hand with no access to Sudri or Simoon. We just need Vada and Shamal. Feather Whirlwind can substitute for Shamal here, but that does reduce the amount of interruptions we can end on. We'll activate Shamal, then normal summon Vada, and activate its effect to special summon Blackwing Dragon using Zephyros and Chinook. In a new chain, we'll activate Shamal to add back Chinook and Feather Whirlwind to summon back the Vada, chain blocking whichever you think your opponent has the hand trap for. We'll reset the Feather Whirlwind to Zephyros, then summon Boreastorm and send Vayu. Synchro summon Boreastorm and Blackwing Dragon into Hot Red Abyss, then summon Assault Dragon and use Feather Whirlwind to summon back Boreastorm. The reason why we summon back Boreastorm is so if it hits the grave when our opponent breaks our board, we'll be able to use Chinook to dump the second Blackwing Dragon, and we now have the materials in rotation for another Assault Dragon without any setup if we hadn't died. Similar to the Sudri white card combo, this isn't much, but it is a realistic situation to be in and prepare for. You can't always find Sudri or Simoon. Next up are our Simoon Wombo combos, the stuff most people will show you. Activate Simoon to set Whirlwind and normal summon, adding Sudri. Normal Sudri, chain blocking Sudri to avoid losing to an Ash, then adds Vata and Shamal. Activate Shamal to set Feather Whirlwind, then special Vata. Activate Vata, sending itself, Zephyros, and any level 2 non-tuner. Use Feather Whirlwind to reborn Vata, then use Zephyros to reset Feather Whirlwind. Summon Nothung using Shamal to add back Sudri and Feather Whirlwind to summon back Vata. Normal Sudri again, once again chain blocking Sudri, but adding Orochi and Twin Shadow. Synchro summon Boreastorm, sending Zonda. Activate Zonda, summoning Simoon, then overlay both Simoons for Wallow, synchro Nothung and Boreastorm for Onimaru, then special summon Orochi because the next step will remove your Blackwing names from the field. Make Onimaru level 4, and synchro Onimaru and Zephyros for Draco Berserker. Synchro Orochi and Blackwing Dragon at the Hot Abyss, then summon Assault Dragon and set Twin Shadow. When our opponent goes to the board, use Twin Shadow to summon Armor Master, then use Feather Whirlwind to summon Zonda for a bounce. The next combo starts exactly the same as the first until we reach the point where we reset the Feather Whirlwind. We'll tribute our Simoon to activate the effect of Sudri, locking us into Synchro monsters. We'll use our Tuner and Sudri to summon Nothung, then use Shamal to add Sudri back to hand. We normal summon Sudri and chain block Sudri, adding Orochi and Twin Shadow. From here we'll use Vada and a non-tuner 4 to make Boreastorm. Boreastorm will be sending a 4 from deck to grave, we'll synchro summon Assault Dragon, then use Feather Whirlwind to summon back Boreastorm, to summon Orochi before we lose our names, then use Sudri and Boreastorm to summon a second Assault Dragon. We use Orochi and Blackwing Dragon to make Hot Red Abyss, then summon the third Assault Dragon through its alternative condition, and set Whirlwind. For our next combo, I'm going to demonstrate how to play through Dimension Shifter. All we need is Simoon to pop and a Vanish to pop off. We'll use Simoon's effect and add Sudri with Whirlwind. We'll normal Sudri and chain block the Sudri, adding Vada and Ouster the Southwind. We'll special with Vada, then synchro summon Nothung. We'll normal summon the Ouster, and from here we have a couple different branching paths. You can either use Ouster to summon back Sudri or Vada depending on what you expect your opponent to be playing and how many turns of Shifter are left. I'll be showing off what I would do blind and on turn 1, but we'll be revisiting this situation after the combo ends. I'll summon Vada and add a Chinook for turn 3, then use Vada and Simoon for Draco Berserker, and Ouster and Nothung for Full Armor Master. Returning back to where we left off, this time I'll be summoning Sudri with Ouster. From here I have 2 more options depending on what turn of Shifter it is. If Shifter expires going into the next turn, I can add Chinook and make Wallow. Or if this is turn 1 of Shifter, I can perform the combo I'll show now by adding a Roshi. I'll activate Sudri's effect by tributing Simoon and taking 700, then synchro summoning Blackwing Dragon. I'll special summon a Roshi and use it and Blackwing Dragon to summon Hot Red Abyss, then use my remaining material to summon Berserker. Now let's play through common hand traps on choke points. We're going to be starting our combo off like any other Simoon combo because this is the position where we're most likely to be able to play through Interruption without needing to open additional extenders. Nobody with even the slightest idea of how our deck works will Ash a Black Whirlwind from Simoon. We still have our normal, so any additional name in hand is a catastrophic punch. We can also reasonably assume our opponent will Ash the Whirlwind chain blocking Sudri, as we'll still be able to resolve the search, and once again, they're going to get punished by any drawn extender. Here the choke point reveals itself with Vada, our most valuable unprotected Ash target, and while they can play through this, it does hurt a lot. In this position, we'll have to summon Nothung using Vada and Sudri, then add Sudri back with Shamal and Grave and summon the banished Shamal, or the Vada and Grave with Feather Whirlwind as Chainlink 3. For here, we use our additional normal summon on Sudri, and here we have branching paths based on what our opponent is playing. I'm going to add Chinook to serve as additional interruption, but this Chinook can do whatever you want. I'll also add Twin Shadow. From here, I'll overlay both Nothung and Simoon for Wallow, and synchro Shamal and Sudri for Berserker, but you can make different endboards tailored to your opponent's board by using Sudri's effect to tribute a level 6 to make a synchro 8, had you summoned a different monster of Whirlwind. I like this current endboard just fine though, because it represents 3 interruptions and follow-up thanks to the Shamal that's now engraved and Feather Whirlwind on field that Twin Shadow can turn on during our opponent's turn. Telements are best known for their ability to convert your turn into theirs, so it's extremely important to know how to turn Havnis into a brick until the turn where being able to activate Havnis matters significantly less. All we need is Simoon and a Banish, a sentence I say a lot for these. We'll activate Simoon, setting Whirlwind and add Sudri. We'll summon Sudri and chain block it to prevent Havnis from being summoned. Add a Shamal and Vada. We'll activate Shamal to set Feather Whirlwind, then summon Vada. Normally we would activate Vada here, but we can't risk Havnis allowing our opponent to go off, so we'll synchro summon Boreas Storm, activating Boreas Storm to send Zephyros and chain blocking with Feather Whirlwind, summoning back Vada. We'll activate Zephyros to reset Feather Whirlwind, then sync Vada and Zephyros for Nothung. The chain here will be Nothung 1, Shamal 2 targeting Sudri, Whirlwind 3 target Vada. We'll extra normal the Sudri, once again chain blocking the Sudri. We'll add a Roshi and your choice of either Twin Shadow or Chinook. Synchro Vada and Nothung into Blackwing Dragon, special Roshi, and make Hot Red Abyss. From here you can either make a Synchro 10 using Boreas Storm and Simoon, or Synchro 8 using Boreas Storm and Sudri. I'll be making Draco Berserker here, but you can go for a different line if you'd like. Special Soul Dragon, set any back row, and pass your turn. This combo is also my go-to line if I'm expecting Gamma, as the only profitable Gamma target is the Simoon we start with, which gets hard punished by any other starters in hand, but I expect Gamma far less this format than I expect Havnis. Next up is Imperm. Definitely our least favorite hand trap to deal with because it can't turn triple tactics online and prevents us from using Sudri's effect to summon a tuner later in the turn. Without extenders, an Imperm can severely hurt our ability to represent much. In the event that our opponent saves the Imperm for Vada, play through it like you would Ash Blossom. If they see the chance to negate a chain block Sudri and go through with it, search Vada with Black Whirlwind, then special Vada and don't use its effect. From here we'll make Boreas Storm and send your choice of either Ouster and or Shamal, depending on if you want follow-up plays or a better board-breaking presence. Synchro summon Boreas Storm and Simoon for Full Armor Master, and if you send Shamal, add back Sudri for next turn. Note that this line is performed under the assumption that you've drawn 0 search targets or free special summons. If you have one and the odds are very high, you don't need to make an end board as low impact as this, and your opponent gets massively punished for being too hasty with their interruption. While playing through Imperm is difficult, playing through Bystials is comparatively a breeze, and once our opponent sees you on a Dark Attribute graveyard-focused combo deck, draws them turn into little Magnamoots as they're siding. We'll pop off like normal, and our opponent will most likely save their Bystial for our Tech to Reborn Vada with Whirlwind. While I could use the Bystial for Zephyros, cutting off some tuners while also blanking a Feather Whirlwind summon is higher value, so you'll have harder time dealing with that, surely. We'll reset the Whirlwind and get a counter on Blackwing Dragon, then tribute Simoon for Sudri's token and add another counter on the Dragon, Synchro Locking us. We'll summon Nothung using the Feather Whirlwind to summon Vada back from Banish, and add Sudri back to hand, getting yet another counter on the dragon. This also has the fun side effect of cutting the Bystial's attack by 800 with No Thug. There's no use of waiting longer because of No Thug's attack reduction, so we'll cash out on our burn damage with Blackwing Dragon, reducing the Bystial to 0 attack and burning for 1700. We'll use our additional normal on Sudri, adding to hand Twin Shadow and Orochi. We'll use Sudri and Vada to summon Boreas Storm, which sends Zonda. Zonda will summon Simoon out of our deck as a spare body our opponent will have to shoot through, as well as Bystial insurance for when we summon it back with Feather Whirlwind on our opponent's turn. We'll make Onimaru with our 2 level 6s and make Onimaru level 4. Using Onimaru and Zephyros, we'll make Berserker, then summon Orochi and Hot Red Abyss and Assault Dragon, then set Twin Shadow. For our next combo, I'll be showing you how to deal with an early Nibiru. This will not be the best way to do it once we get Sharnga, but that's for the future. We'll start off with our usual Simoon combo, but once we summon our 5th monster, our opponent will summon Nibiru. From this position, as long as we have Gale and haven't spent our Zephyros, we can still pop off. Activate Zephyros to reset Feather Whirlwind to get a name off field. Special Gale and have Nibiru's attack, then summon Joe. Trigger Feather Whirlwind, summoning back Sudri, and use Sudri to convert the Nibiru token into a tuner we can actually use for something. Synchro Sudri and the tuner into Boreas Storm and send Vayu, then use Shamal to add back Sudri. Banish Zephyros and Vayu to summon Sohaya, then synchro Boreas Storm and Sohaya into Nothon, burning for 800 and reducing Nibiru to 700 attack. Extra normal to Sudri be added back, then search for Twin Shadow and Orochi. Use Joe to summon back Boreas Storm and synchro Boreas Storm and Sudri for either Full Armor Master or Assault Dragon depending on your opponent's deck, then summon Orochi and synchro Orochi and Joe into Berserker, then summon Assault Dragon and set Twin Shadow. Obviously this isn't ideal and won't work on anybody who knows to save the Nibiru for after Zephyros, but a flawed line is still better than no line, so it's worth knowing. Next up, we'll try to play through Nibiru without Gale or Zephyros. It's important to remember that this combo leaves you low on life, so doing it near the end of the round isn't recommended. We'll start with our usual Simoon nonsense, but we'll make Boreas Storm and send Zonda before we commit to Zephyros. Our opponent will Nibiru us once we summon back Zephyros, and now we can pop off. We'll reactivate Feather Whirlwind, and summon Assault Dragon using Boreas Storm and Blackwing Dragon we summoned earlier, triggering Feather Whirlwind to summon Sudri. We'll convert the Nibiru token into a tuner through Sudri, then make Nothung and add back Sudri with Shamal. We'll normal the Sudri and add Orochi and Twin Shadow, and use Twin Shadow to summon another Boreas Storm. We'll summon Orochi, then use Orochi and Nothung to make Joe. We'll use Zonda to summon Simoon from deck, and make Onimaru with Simoon and Boreas Storm. We use Joe to summon back Boreas Storm, and use Onimaru to copy the level of Orochi and make Berserker. After that, we'll use Boreas Storm and Sudri to summon either Full Armor Master or Assault Dragon, depending on your opponent's deck. These combos may not be the best ways around hand traps, just the ones I find myself falling back on regularly. Experiment with yourself, and if you can find lines that work better for you, please let me know in the comments section. I'm very interested. For our last combo, I'll be demonstrating a combo that's more specific to the Photon Hybridova format, and that's playing through the 3 locked zones that kashtira makes on their first turn. While the number of locked zones will change if you don't have anything that can stop them, it's very important to know in case you play Dark Ruin or more, as that card doesn't clear the locked zones Shangri-La creates. Also important to note is that in the event you can negate the board but can't remove the locked zones, and only have access to Sudri, the 1-card Sudri combo demonstrated earlier in the video functions completely normally with only 2 main monster zones. We'll start off like normal, adding Sudri and using its summon to find Vada and Shamal, then converting Shamal into Feather Whirlwind. For this position we are out in the monster zone, so we have to use Sudri to convert Simoon into a tuner here. We'll use Sudri and the token for Boreas Storm and send a Chinook for Shamal to add back. This could really be any monster as Vada can send Chinook, however I wanted to set up a level 10 Synchro to steal hypothetical Arise her with Full Armor Master and in phase 2. We'll special Vada and use its effect to send both Zephyros and either Chinook or Harmathan. Then Shamal will add back Chinook, and Feather Whirlwind will summon back Vada. We'll reset Feather Whirlwind with Zephyros after summoning Full Armor Master, then make Nothung and reborn Vada again to summon Draco Berserker. Now we can summon the tax band and proceed to the battle phase for cleanup. If your opponent knows the matchup, they can and will cut you on names, hard punishing you for having even a slightly suboptimal hand. If your opponent is patient with Dimension Shifter and uses it in response to your Vada, you have now lost the game, and that is very rarely not hyperbole. Because Vada has to specifically send the material to the graveyard to get it summoned, you have now lost your only tuner and a monster from deck for literally nothing. With the right extenders, Sudri can help you play through by summoning a token, but ultimately Sudri alone can't salvage your board from that position. Pray you have access to Ouster in hand to summon with Nothung or go next. Be careful with your prosperity vanishes. Because the deck goes through so much of its extra over the course of your turn 1 setup, it's difficult to have follow-up remaining after a prosperity for 6. While this deck isn't a tiered meta contender, especially in the current format, it is a deck that feels hard in a fun way and rewards players' knowledge of every moving piece in the deck and how to best sequence every play to maximize every bit of value gained. I know for a fact this deck can at minimum do well at a local or regional level, and I'm very much going to enjoy the time I spend with the deck moving forward. Blackwings are back, and they're better than ever thanks to the new support cards. Also, it feels good not playing a deck that loses entirely